This is a Sandy Boy Productions podcast. Hey, everybody. Welcome to All Have Another Podcast with Lindsay Hine. I'm your host, Lindsay. Thank you so much for joining us today. Hope you're having a great day, a great week. Take a few deep breaths. If not, I hope that can turn around for you. I am cheering for you. I'm grateful you're here. Hope you're encouraged at this start of the new year. I always feel like there's a lot of hope and like, ooh, what's going to go down this year at the beginning of a year? I also know some of you might be going through some really hard times, so sending a hug your way if that is you. We have a really phenomenal athlete on the podcast today, Trevon Jenifer. He is a 3-time Paralympic gold medalist, a 1-time Paralympic bronze medalist, and a world champion for Team USA. He plays wheelchair basketball. He was born with congenital phocomelia, which is a disease where you are born with no lower limbs. And he shares about what life was growing up with no lower limbs and how he found adaptable sport. He not only is a Paralympian in wheelchair basketball, before basketball, he was a wrestler as well. He's represented Team USA for over 15 years. He's the father of 2. He works for the Secret Service. And in this episode, you will hear all about his passion for hard work, how much he sacrificed to achieve these big goals. He also talks about how much mindset matters, and I think you're going to all take so much from this conversation with Trevon. It was a true honor to interview him for the podcast, and I don't know about you, but I watched some wheelchair basketball in the Paralympics, and I thought it was so freaking cool. I love that so many of these athletes from the Paralympics have shared about how there's been more media attention and more coverage on the Paralympics than ever before this year. I'm like, let's go. Let's keep doing it. Let's keep getting these eyes on these sports. And I think that with the Olympics and the Paralympics being in LA for 2028, we have the opportunity to push that even more. So let's keep cheering on these athletes. If you want to find Trevon on Instagram, check him out. He is Trey Jenifer, and that's Jennifer with 1 N on Instagram. You are going to love following him over there if you do so. All right, if you are enjoying this conversation or any of these episodes, please share it with your friends or anybody that you think might be interested, and leave us a quick rating and review on iTunes. You can also support the show on patreon.com/Lindsay Hine. All right, please enjoy my conversation with Trevon Jenifer. All right, friends, today on the podcast, we have Paralympian Trevon Jenifer on the show. Welcome to the show, Trevon.
Hey, Lindsay, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Looks like you've got some Christmas decorations up. You guys are all decorated for the holidays back there.
Yeah, you only see like a bit of it. It gets crazier the more you go into the house. So that's my job. My job is to make sure, and unfortunately, they're not even. I tied these. As you can see, they're offset a little bit, but yeah, we're in the Christmas spirit here.
Who's the most enthusiastic one? Do you have 2 kids or 3 kids?
2 kids.
Okay.
So they're 9 and 5. I gotta say the 5-year-old, he's pretty jazzed about it. He's like, because we're in like a townhouse, and he's like, but Dad, there's not like a fireplace on the main level where we have our Christmas tree. And I was like, but it's in the basement. He'll come upstairs. It's fine. He was like, oh.
Oh, that's so good. Christmas is so much more fun these days. My youngest is 6, my oldest is 12, and they love it. It's so much fun.
Oh, yeah. So, how is the 12-year-old still enthusiastic about Christmas too, or starting to wear off a little bit?
I have 2 in the middle too, so they're 6, 8, 10, and 12. They're all mostly just excited to get presents, to be honest. And I try to be like, that's not what Christmas is all about. Also, like, I remember being excited about the presents when I was a kid. So
absolutely
give them some grace there.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if you ask my kids will be like, Christmas is about giving. It's like, okay, so what's your favorite part about it? And they're like, getting all the presents. I was like, that's not it.
I know. Mine we're going to go to like a Christmas Eve service at 3 p.m. on Christmas Eve, and they were complaining about it. And I was like, guys, we're going to the Christmas Eve service, okay?
Right.
Um, well, let's hear about your story. You have an incredible story and four-time Paralympian, which is so
Yeah.
cool. Basketball and basketball. Maybe take us back and tell us the genesis of your story.
Oh, I don't know if I have enough time for that,
I
but
know, I know.
yeah. Well, I was born with a disease called congenital phocomelia, which basically means I was born with no legs, and I was one of five to my mom.
Wow.
Yeah, so we come from a pretty athletic household, and I was able to like get into wheelchair track and basketball at such a young age, and it just kind of took off after college. After I got recruited to play wheelchair basketball at Edinburgh University. After that, it kind of like it took off, and I've been on the team on and off since '09, and
Wow.
I've been lucky enough to be at four games and to be able to say that we've had some sort of success at every stage of that game. So, but ultimately, to be honest with you, I'm happy with the relationships that I built in that process. Like some of these
Hmm.
guys, they're legitimately like brothers to me, and
Hmm.
it's the relationships that are going to stand the test of time, right? You can take these medals and records away, but those relationships are what I'm going to be having when I'm, gray and old, and I don't have to worry about all that other stuff.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah. I do think like with sport, that is the one of the most important pieces of sport. That's why I always loved cross country so much. The cross country team was just so tight knit,
Yeah,
and that mattered more than the running itself.
absolutely. And like, and I think that because like what's crazy about like cross country, which is kind of comparative to the elite side of basketball, is that it's a team sport, right? You're
Yeah.
running for your team, but it's a lot of individual preparation, right? But to understand and know that as you're preparing for this moment, for this big race or for this big game, the people that you have on your backside. And one of the awesome things that I think that I'm able to do is like I get to play against my teammates when we're here in the States. And
Hmm.
it's one of my favorite times, right? Because they push me to be better, right? So like it's a bunch of individualized like working out, and but there's also like a team concept to it all. So I think that that's awesome.
So let's talk about life with no legs a little bit.
Yeah,
You're born this way.
absolutely.
So I'm curious what this is like. Like you're born this way. If you compare that to someone who loses their legs later in life, like this is what you've always known.
Yeah. So yeah, what's crazy is I love to have these conversations with kids, right? I go to schools, and one of the reasons I love kids is because they're unfiltered with parents who are like, oh, I don't know if I want to tread that water. But like kids are just like, hey man, what's wrong with you? Like I'm like, okay,
Mm,
let's have this conversation. And one of the questions that I was asked was, do you wish that you had legs? And I was
mm,
like, it's one of those things where I'm like, yeah, like it's different if I would be able to say, yeah, I want to try this. Like, I want to try to dunk. I want to go on a roller coaster, like that requires you to have, four limbs in order to ride the roller coaster. But would I trade it? Absolutely not. It's
hmm,
completely different. But when you look at it from the perspective of, I was born with this is all I've ever known.
hmm.
And now you transition to I've had friends that were, able bodied, had the ability to walk, and then all of a sudden an accident happens. Now you have a completely different trauma to go through. Whereas, yeah, like I had some difficulties with adjustments and stuff, but again, this is something that I've been adjusting to my entire life,
Mm.
not the whole aspect of having the ability and then losing it. So, like, for me, like this is all I know. This is all I've known. And it's a part of my life, a part of my identity. At the end, it's not my whole identity, but it's a part of it.
Yeah. So on your team, yeah, you probably have people that are coming into these disabilities with from all walks of life.
Yeah,
Some people born with, some people recently ish.
yeah. I think what's crazy is that we were actually talking about it. I think there's like four or five of us that were born with our disabilities, and the rest of our teammates they acquired their disability later in
Hmm.
life. So Like, and we're talking like at a young age, all the way up through. We had a guy that was in the military, and he
Mm.
acquired his a lot later in life as well. So we got the gambit on our team. So we're very
Wow.
diverse.
So you one of 5 kids.
Yeah.
Life growing up, and all your siblings are super athletic as well. How did you like get yourself thrown into the mix? And it sounds like you had good resources to get involved in para sport.
Well, so like it's just like any other. Do you have brothers and sisters?
I have 2 sisters.
Okay, so like the dynamic in the household, right? So
Yeah.
like you get if you're the little brother, little sibling, you get beat on, right? And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
you got a younger sibling, you want to do the same. And then
Yeah.
when you talk about competitive sport, I mean, even to this day, we're adults in our 30s, right? We're talking about who's the best athlete in the household, right? Like these are the conversations that like we have, and that's how competitive it was. So to go from that, and then the person that I call my dad when he came into my life at 4, like he showed me and gave me the pathway to sports. There's an organization called Air Capital out of Washington D.C. that gave me the ability to do track and basketball. And what's completely crazy about all of this, if you would have said Trevon, you would be a Team USA Paralympic athlete at the age of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. What would that sport be? My answer would have been track.
Hmm.
I love track. Track any short distances, I'm there. Speed, I'm there.
Power.
Yeah. But like to fast forward and be like, you have 4 medals and they're from basketball. Like it's mind boggling. It's completely different. But it was that competitive spirit. And then from my family, and then my dad coming in and showing me and giving me the keys to be able to find Air Capital and then go to Edinburgh. That's what ultimately led to Team USA in wheelchair basketball.
When did you say goodbye to track?
So I left the Air Capital program when I was 12.
Okay.
So I did 8 years, and like I like they said I still have records in my class and at my age that are still holding strong today. And so I'm like, that's at the age of 12, I was like gearing up, ready to go.
Yeah.
And we had a falling out between my family and that program. So I stopped, going. And that was the last time I did track. But to be honest, at that period in time, I'm preteen, right? Like at that point, I felt like I lost a part of myself, and I didn't get to compete in sport. And it wasn't until my dad like was like, "Hey, why don't you try wrestling?" My junior year of high school, and I was like, I don't know if that's for me, right? Kind of push back on it. But the moment that I was able to get on that mat, I got pinned like immediately. I was like, those competitive juices started flowing again. So when Jim Glatch gave me a call after my senior year and say, "Hey, do you want to be, a student athlete for wheelchair basketball?" I was like, yeah, there's no way.
Had you been playing basketball?
Nope. I didn't pick up a basketball at that point until since I was 12.
Really?
So yeah. And so the next time that I would touch it would be the summer before my freshman year in college. So
Wow.
there was a 6-year drought, without touching basketball. But it came back pretty quick because like I was a part of a really good team my freshman year, and I was the worst on the team, and I refused to be the worst on the team. So like I'm always in coach's office watching film, I'm working out, and all of that hard work just it paid off at the end of the day.
Yeah. So worst one on the team,
Yeah,
and then
by far,
now you're a 4-time Paralympian.
absolutely.
So you weren't visioning that yet.
No,
Oh, were
no.
you?
But you know what? It was a goal because in my room, I'll tell you, I had. I'm a visual learner. I'm a visual kind of guy, so I had my goals posted on my wall in my room, and it was almost like in a pyramid shape. And at the very top of the pyramid was playing for Team USA and winning like a medal. So that was at the top. But I knew that there was other things I had to accomplish first. So then, like right under that was like win a national title for Edinburgh, win All American, and then underneath that was like, you know, work out 6 times a week, focus on free throws here. So then it was like, it's like a checkbox. I knew if I could check off these, then leading up to that very top goal is going to eventually happen. And what's crazy is that not a lot of those things happen. Like we never won a national championship, came close, never won, but like it was like the foundation to building to get to this level where we are currently now.
So I just interviewed a wheelchair athlete on the track, and we were talking about how she was on the first wheelchair national championship team for NCAAs on the track.
Yeah.
Now, basketball is another sport that does that. It's just the two, though, right?
I don't want to be misquoted here, but I
Yeah, yeah,
know
yeah.
that when I was there, there was a big for track and big for basketball. Those are the two big things. There might actually be tennis as well, but I
Okay.
don't quote me on that one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a big deal. And then how many schools, like, how many schools do you have to choose from? Like, what are the opportunities with wheelchair basketball in college?
Yeah, in college, I think when I was there, there was like 8 to 9 across the
Okay.
country, and you got to choose from like my university, which is a really small D2 school and other sports, but we had a D1 wrestling program. So that was a small school, and then you had like the University of Alabama, University of Arizona, Wisconsin Whitewater. So like you got small schools, large schools, cold schools, warm schools. So you had schools across the entire country that people had the ability to go to. And I think they just expanded to having the University of Michigan, a University of, I think it's Eastern Washington, CUNY in New York. So like it's expanding and it's growing. Auburn. So like it's growing.
That's good. Yeah. And then when you finish college, what's the path and the trajectory to Paralympics?
So I actually got my first Team USA like nudge in '09 when I was like a sophomore, junior, and that was for the U23 team, which is like our development team to get to the national team. And so I make that cut. We win gold as U23s, and it's like, okay, now I got the very next year, I get my invite to the men's tryout. And I didn't make that first initial team, but I got to see what it was like and what I needed to do. And so after that, it's like yearly tryouts. So like just because you make the team one year, you're not guaranteed to make it the next year. So now you're making sure that you have to be on your P's and Q's. And I mean, I've been cut a couple of times, and
Hmm.
after being cut, it's about going back to the drawing board and working on those things that they said that they needed to see the next year. And I was just, fortunate enough to take. I'm wired a little differently, yeah.
Uh,
So like when I hear that like I have a deficiency, like it's about making sure that that becomes one of the things that I'm relied upon when it comes to game time.
yeah. And you had mentioned like the things that you needed to work on. What comes easiest to you in basketball, and what comes like more difficult that you had to like really hone in on?
Oh, that's a really good question. So like attribute wise, it's like the speed of like I'm fast, I'm quick, and the way that my chair and stuff is structured, I'm like a little not tall, but I'm like a tweener in between. So I'm quick, I'm long. So these are the things that like help me, like especially on the defensive end, getting offensively. One of the biggest things that I was cut for in earlier parts of my career was like being able to make sure that I finished through contact, make sure that my
Hmm.
scoring aspect was picked up. So like that was something that I had to work on. I love the game, so like also understanding and knowing the game, basketball IQ. I would say that my basketball IQ is good as well. So like it's a litany of things, but if you were to say attribute wise, it's definitely the speed. Like I'm quick. I love to
Yeah.
be fast. Yeah.
How much time do you spend lifting and working out in the gym?
Yeah, so like once you get to this level, like it's you go to college. So like college kind of like opens the door where it's like, 5, 6 days a week and starting to go. But then when you start to realize after you graduate from college, it's not as easy. Like you're trying to work full-time job, and now you got to like
Yeah.
the discipline needs to be there. And so the biggest part was like, okay, in the gym shooting 6 days a week, lifting 3 days a week, cardio 3 days a week, and making sure that you get like team practices in there as well. But then you take that schedule and then you put your full time 40-hour work week job in there, got kids now. So now
Family.
you're like and Mama Bear needs her time, because if she doesn't get her time, oh, the whole household's going to be a wreck, right? So,
Right.
it's just about staying disciplined, organized, and like being able to be like, okay, if this is what I want, like you got to go get it. And for me, one of the things I love is this transition. My daughter, she said, I don't know if you can see it's behind me. She's played soccer. She's done jujitsu, and she's done all these different sports that we put her in. We put her into these sports. Doesn't really like doing it, right? Mm-hmm. She does it to do it. It's fun. Do it with my friends. Now she's switching to Irish dance. And me being an elite athlete and an athlete, my wife, she plays soccer at college. That's how we met. You saw the switch in her. Mm-hmm. Like, her buy-in to Irish dance is like, oh, she loves it. Like, it's like me with basketball. It's addictive. And like, when I saw her like that and love the game, I was like, yes, like I know that feeling. Mm-hmm. So now it's like, it's the thing that keeps you going. So once you find that thing that keeps you going, it's not that hard to find the time to do the thing you love, to get better at the thing you love. So it's just so awesome to see it come full circle with my baby girl.
Isn't that the best, to see your kids like find something they really love, and like, yeah, you're like almost feeling those feelings through them. You're like, I get it. I know what you're feeling right now. It's the best.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's so awesome. And then she does Irish dance, and like she didn't qualify for the thing that she wanted to, and like you saw her hurt, right? We get back to the hotel room and you see her hurt, and then like you feel her hurt, and then like you feel her hurt, you feel her excitement, and it's like she looks at you and she goes, Dad, I want to work out with you. Dad, I want to become better. And you're just like, baby, I am here for you. Whatever you need Daddy to do, Daddy's here. We're gonna get through this together. And like, you know what it's like, because you've been an athlete. You know what it's like to be, getting ready to make a team, and they're reading in this list. Like, they have this list of athletes. Your name isn't yet. Your name isn't called yet. Your name doesn't get called. Like, reliving that as a father, oh, it's a knife to the heart. But one of the things she said was, I was like, how do you feel? And she was like, I'm sad I didn't do it. And she says, so what are we going to do now? And she says, I need to train more. I'm like, that's my girl. That's my girl.
Yeah. Hey friends, I hope that you are planning to join me in Jacksonville, Florida for the Donna Marathon weekend, January 31st to February 2nd. This is my all-time favorite race of the year. Look, I know we get excited about the majors and all these big races where everybody's there and it's all these parties. Nothing beats the community you find in Jacksonville this weekend, though. There is a family fun run, which is Saturday, February 1st. There is a 5K on Saturday, February 1st, and then there's the half marathon and the marathon on Sunday, February 2nd. There's also a bar crawl, which is super fun, on Sunday, February 2nd, post-race. And you can also sign up for the Visit Jacksonville Donna Booby Trap Challenge, which includes doing the Donna 5K and the breast cancer marathon. So you're doing the 5K on Saturday, the marathon on Sunday. There's the half challenge where you do the 5K and the half marathon. And then you can also do, get this is pretty cool, the 110 Ultra Marathon. There are so many ways to get involved, and this race helps support the Donna Foundation, which helps families who are walking through a breast cancer diagnosis, helps them financially. They also fund groundbreaking research. I've been going to this race since 2018, and it is just the best, okay? It is the best. It's on the beach. You don't run on the sand. I can't even begin to explain how fun, like mile 10 of the half marathon is. We've got all the flamingos out, and it's a blast. I'm doing the half this year. I have an athlete, Kara, who's doing the marathon, so that's exciting. If you do want to run it, use the code Lindsay10 to get 10% off your registration. And then I'm also following a 12-week training plan for myself to build myself up from my injury to be able to run the half marathon. So if you'd like to run the half at Donna and you're kind of at the beginning building blocks of your training and you'd like to train with me, email me, lindsay@sandyboyproductions.com, and I will connect with you about training on VDOT with me and building up to this half marathon together. That's lindsay@sandyboyproductions.com. All right, again, that's breastcancermarathon.com, and use the code Lindsay10 for 10% off your registration of any of the races. Do you have messages or do you have anything you say to her, like, or when you think about like when you didn't get picked for a team and things like that, like what kind of insight do you share?
So the biggest talk that we just had, and this just happened last week, I think. So this happened recently. And I was like, baby, one of the things that I want you to understand is that the process that you put in to get where you are currently is what you need to believe in and to buy in. Your value isn't on how you finish. Because I think so many times we're like, well, I didn't finish first, so now I'm not valued as the best. Like, yes, you didn't accomplish the ultimate goal that you have, but that doesn't determine your value as an athlete, as an individual.
Yeah.
So I was like, do you understand that, hey, we didn't get our goal. That was our goal. We didn't hit our goal. But that doesn't mean I'm less than any of those other dancers. It just shows us what we have to do to maybe get and obtain that ultimate goal. So like getting her to understand that value is not in the result, it's in the process of getting there. I think it spoke night and day difference. And I just want to make sure that I continue to reiterate that because she defines her value. It can't be someone else.
Oh, totally. I was just watching, I'm kind of embarrassed to say this. I was watching the Dallas Cowboy cheerleader like docuseries on Netflix. Did you see it?
No, I have not seen that.
But I mean, it is a rigorous process to make that team. And
I can imagine.
I mean, these women, like, they like move to Dallas. They don't make the team. Then they move there for the year, take all these extra classes to then try it again, and then don't make it again. Like, I mean, just crushing. But I feel like they need to, because I just finished where the girls didn't make it. I'm like, they need to hear your message because they're so sad.
Yeah.
And their value isn't in making that team, but it would be hard to not feel that way.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that I try to get her to understand. We documented from the time that we hopped in the car, driving to the airport, getting to the airport, landing really late, like I'm videotaping the whole thing.
Aww.
And one of the things that I kept asking her through the process was like, how do you feel? Right? Because throughout this entire process, I want to know how you feel. And so afterwards, she was like, after she didn't make the cut, she was like, Dad, I don't want to do this. I was like, baby, it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be angry. These are emotions that we have. Those emotions are okay.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that we document these emotions, because I want you to understand what it felt like in that moment. Sometimes we need a reminder. You know, one of the things that I have downstairs in my gym is I have the constant reminder of 2018 when we lost to GB and World Championships. And I got to relive mentally them celebrating their national anthem, their songs. We're the champions being played over and over. And we're sitting there on stage with them as they're celebrating this moment. One of the worst feelings I've ever had. This is something that's constantly played. So when I'm downstairs in my gym and I'm like, trying to get that next set up, 2018, pushing through it. I don't know if I want to go to the gym today. 2018. So like, those are the things that like, it's okay to have these emotions, right? It's about making sure we utilize them to make sure that we're making ourselves better rather than like using it to define where we are and how we value ourselves.
So good. Yeah. So that moment you're mentioning, so you have 3 gold medals in the Olympics, 1 bronze, 1 gold in world champs, 2 silvers.
Yes.
Okay. Tell us what's the competition like? Like, who are the countries that are like, these are the guys we got to beat? Give us a little insight on what it looks like.
So I will honestly say, I'll give hats off to a lot of the countries. One of our biggest ones is GB. GB is good. and you got a bunch of European teams. The Netherlands are good, Germany's good, Spain's another good one, Japan's another good one, Australia. Like these are a bunch of good teams.
Okay.
Um, but I feel like any given day, like you're getting everyone's A game, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's A game. As soon and this is how I feel. This could be wrong, but the moment that you see USA versus whomever, insert team, as soon as they see that on their schedule, they're like, this is the team to beat. So
Yeah.
we've always have a target on our back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Since 2016, you're like, who can say, hey, we beat this team? So they have that circle. And I truly believe that's how teams go into it. And maybe that's just my mental wiring to make sure that I'm not taking a team for granted. But I think in any given day, like you can lose to any of those teams because they have the qualities to be good, but we're getting everyone's A game. That's why it's important that we don't beat
Mm.
ourselves in those moments.
Oh yeah. So your three golds came after the bronze.
Yes, yes. And 2012, the bronze, and then the gold 16, 21, put
Yeah.
air quotes on that one, and 24.
When you got the bronze, what was the history like with America and medals in wheelchair basketball?
Yeah, so at that point in 2012, the US won one other medal, and that was in 2000.
Okay.
And that was a bronze medal in 2000. And then I think Athens was 04. We didn't medal there. Beijing was 08. We didn't medal there. And
Wow.
so in 2012, it was the first medal since 2000.
Okay.
But you fast forward 4 years to 2016, we haven't gold medal since
Yeah.
1988, right?
Wow.
When you say that, like, I was a part of like a historic team, like we're talking at that point I was 20 something years old. I was born in 88. So that was the last time we won gold. And then
Wow.
you're like, hey, 20 something years later, this is the first time that we were able to taste gold.
Mm-hmm.
So like that was pretty cool for us. So in 2012, it was like, this is my first Paralympic Games. I'm excited to be there. Right.
Yeah.
I'm excited. And although it wasn't, the color that we wanted, a teammate of mine was like, you don't know how many opportunities of these you're going to have. So you
Mm-hmm.
cherish the color that you have. Right. But as an athlete, as a competitor, you left some meat on the bone. So like you enjoy that moment, but then you knew that there was still some work to be done.
And then you guys got gold medals, three
Oh
games
yeah,
in a row.
we took care of business, and then we become the first men's team to three-peat gold in history. So like, there's been a bunch of people to be able to go back to back, but we're the first team to be able to three-peat, and to do it with some of the guys. I think there was five of us, six of us that have been on that team to actually three-peat in each one of those. Like those are like it's that brotherhood, right? Like, yeah, we don't have great practices all the time. Yeah, we don't have like where it's like always here, but understanding each other, understanding the way that we're wired mentally, like it makes it that much sweeter when you look to the left and you look to the right and you realize that you've been in this grind since '09 or since 12 or 16. Like it makes it well worth it. Makes it well worth it.
What needs to be done? Like, at what point in your career do you think that you'll be like, okay, I've done this long enough. Like, I can hang up the Paralympic stuff. I mean, you're not that old, but how
That's
long
not
do
what my
you want to
body
go?
says.
I know.
My body. Well, that's a good question. I'm not gonna lie to you. After I remember we won gold, we go out, we celebrate at an adult establishment, and we go to the Airbnb, and I remember the kids are sleeping. I look at Laura, and I was like, I'm so mentally and physically tired.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, it's been a long journey just to get to this point, and I was like, I'm tired. I need rest. And she was like, hey, take the year, take two, you know,
Hmm.
whatever you got to do to reset. And that's the awesome thing about this whole situation. She pushes me to be my best version of myself, right? And she's like, if you want it, I'm here to push you. If you want to be done, I'm okay with that too, right? But she's like, but I do want to remind you that it is going to be in LA. So I was like, so she's like, I still want you to play though. So, and that's awesome to have a spouse that's being able to understand, like, we're raising two kids. So when I'm out traveling in a different country or out training at a different facility, like, she's holding down the fort. And to be able to have that support, you're just like, I got it made.
Oh, how did you, oh, you said you met because she was a student athlete as well.
Soccer, she was on soccer team and I was on wheelchair basketball. Yeah. At our
Oh,
college.
nice. Um, yeah, I don't know why I wasn't thinking about LA. I asked that question because I'm like, I feel like you usually see people tap out at 4, maybe
Hmm.
the 5th,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
far as like career.
We had, one of our teammates, he was at 5, Matt Scott. He was at 5 in Tokyo and then he
Okay.
retired. And then, a good friend as well, like Matt, Steve Serio, he just hit his 5th. And so, like, he's saying, like, he's looking to retire and he's done. I, I don't know. As long as I still have, her backing me and I have that support, and as long as the body still maintains, I think that we'll see where we go. So I'm gonna take a little bit of a break right now,
Yeah,
let the
good,
body
good.
rest, and then we'll see where we go for LA. It's hard to say no to home soil.
Yeah, I feel like you kind of can't.
Yeah, like, I don't think you understand. So I'll give you a story. I'm a storyteller.
Yeah,
So
please.
we're in Paris and we're teaming up to see who we're going to play for the qualifier, and people are like, "Who do you want to play?" I was like, "I want to play France in
Mm.
the quarterfinals," and they were like, "Okay, all right." So we get in there, we go in first. They call all of our names, and then they say France. They call every single one of them, and then they start playing their national anthem. You can't turn and have a conversation with your teammate. My teammate's so close to me, and he can't hear me. And you look at each other, and you're just smiling because they're blowing the roof off of the entire thing. And at one point, we're beating them by 15, 20 points, right? It's like the game is completely over. But their fans, like,
Mm.
every time they made a bucket, they're booming, they're cheering, they're loud. And I'm like, you would think that the game is like neck and neck. So, like, to be able to experience that on, like, home soil, it's tingling in the back of my brain. It's just
Mm.
tingling in the back of my brain.
Oh yeah, you got to do it. Yeah, talk to me about the progression, like from the first year you were a part of the Paralympics to now. I have talked about this to a lot of athletes that have come on the podcast, that I feel like on the media side of thing, we've seen a lot more exposure. And I'm curious from your side how you felt about that.
Yeah, so I mean, the growth from where we were in 2012. So I'll speak about my personal experience from 2012 to where we are now. Have been night and day differences.
That's
So in
great.
2012, it felt like, oh, Trey, when's your game? Oh, well, my game is at this time, but in order for you to catch it, you need this
Mm.
web link, this password in order to get there, and it might already be over by the time that you're able to actually watch the game. You fast forward to where we are currently, and they're like, at the end of the game, oh, you had an awesome game, blah, blah, blah,
Oh,
blah. They're catching it in real time. And I'm like,
so good.
this is what it's about. And
Yeah.
then, like, one of my sponsors is Xfinity and Comcast. So when I go to their events and they show viewership in the millions, they show
Mm.
eyes on over 115% compared to the previous quad. Like, these are the numbers, and we're like capturing people's attention, right? To the
Mhm.
point where my wife will tell you, she remembers reading an article saying in 2012 that people are fatigued after watching the Olympics to be able to showcase it again. But what these games have showed you is that no, there was no fall off.
Right.
People are tuning in because they understand, like, what we're putting into the sport. We're masters of our craft, right? We're talking about we're a few in the world to be able to do this. And people are starting to take notice. They're like, we go to events, rolling through the airport, and people are like, oh, you play for Team USA. And they're like, it's wheelchair basketball, Team USA. I'm like, yes, like they're respecting me for my craft and not being like, oh, it's so nice for you to be out and about
Mm.
having fun playing little basketball. No,
Oh,
no, I I train just like my counterparts in order to be the best at what I do. And now people are starting to, respect that and recognize that, and it's just an
so good.
awesome feeling.
That's so great. What you just said, like when you were saying, "Oh, it's so nice that you've been out." How have you dealt with that over your lifetime when people treat you like that?
So this is I love telling the story. So like for me, we talked about it before, right? This is something that this is all I've known, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like for me, I shake it off. It is what it is. Like
Huh.
or just like this is just someone else that is ignorant to what this is. I'm a human being. I'm living my life. I don't want to be cooped up in the house where not being independent. So when Laura and I started dating in college, like she is like when people would stare because that's
Mm.
something I'm used to. She would be
Oh, sure.
like she's not used to this. So now she's having to adapt to it, and she doesn't hold her tongue very often or very well. So the moment that someone's like she's stepping in, and then we're gonna be like, hey, so like not so rough, all right. But like it's just something that I've dealt with my entire life. So like to be able to be like, oh, it happens. Or another one that I tell is that like sometimes we are so quick as adults and as parents to correct our children that we are subconsciously putting biases into their mind.
Oh, it's so
And
true.
people are like, what do you
So
mean?
true.
So the kids see me, they look, they stare. Mommy, what's wrong with him? What do we do as parents? Oh, no, don't do that. We don't do that. Try to remove them from the situation, not make the situation awkward for the parent. But subconsciously we're telling this kid not to interact with something that's different, not to question something that's different.
Mm-hmm.
So now when this kid sees another individual in a wheelchair, it's I shouldn't ask questions, I shouldn't have an interaction, when it's the complete opposite, right? Like I feel like we need to start questioning things that we don't understand, make ourselves more knowledgeable about things that we don't have knowledge of. That changes ignorance into knowledge, and we all know that knowledge leads to change. So if we want things to change, we have to stop being ignorant to things we don't know.
Mm-hmm. It's such a good point that you bring up because I think as parents we get nervous that what our kids say is going to reflect how we've parented them.
Hmm.
What? Oh, I can't believe that kid just said that. Like, what did the parents say at home?
Yeah.
When we all know if we have kids, like sometimes your kids say stuff and you're like, I don't know where that came from. So we're nervous about that, how it will reflect how people
Yes.
think we do things at home. And then we're worried that they're going to offend somebody. And
Yeah.
we live in this culture where people are offended all of the time. And I don't know, maybe you can speak to that a little bit.
Yeah. So like, I don't have a problem with the question being asked, right? I think it's on the individual. So there's not, I don't want to put this blanket statement that, oh, you should just ask everyone every question. You understand that like people are going to have bad days and maybe they're not going to want to ask your question or be offended by it. But not asking the question for me leads to no interaction, no knowledge, being okay with being ignorant to the situation. Because just because I might have a positive interaction with someone doesn't mean everyone's going to have a positive reaction to the situation. But that also doesn't mean that just because one apple is spoiled, we're going to just ruin the entire bunch and have this judgment, this blanket judgment for all individuals involved. Most of the people that I know that, are in this community and talking about the sport of wheelchair basketball, or just talking about disability awareness and the movement that that's taken on in and of itself, having these difficult conversations, being vulnerable, we understand that that's what leads to things being changed and being different. And I think bringing up awareness is the only way that this is going to happen. Like we said, if you look at the numbers from 2012 to 2024, stark differences. So what are we doing that makes it, what are we doing differently? We're putting eyeballs on the sport.
Mm-hmm.
And now the sport's selling themselves.
Yeah, it's so great. Yeah, and when I was saying earlier, I'm thinking more about this question a little bit. It's like, yeah, it's not your burden to carry to answer kids' questions.
Absolutely.
Certainly not. I think parents can read the room a little bit, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And this is also what I'll say. I'm not going to say that all my interactions have been the best interactions that I've had. I remember there was a time myself and Laura walking down the grocery store, and you can hear a kid 2-3 aisles over, and they're just making a ruckus, right? He comes around the bend down the aisle. He stops. He sees me. We lock eyes. He runs up to me, and he's like, what happened to you? And I was like, well, one day I didn't clean my room. And so my dad. And then the mom comes around and they see the interaction. She calls him back. And I'm just like, dude, we just leave it at that. And then we go our separate ways. And I'm like, I'm always wondering what this kid, his room is like this at this point in time in his life. But like, I don't know. So like, again, that's a situation where I could have just been like, oh, I was born this way. That's an easy answer.
Yeah.
Or I could have fun with it. Like if you ask my son to this day, he's like, hey, daddy, how'd you lose your legs? He'll go, oh, the shark ate it. The craziest thing is that he's gone to different presentations of mine, especially at like his schools. And I will tell him what actually happened. But if you ask my son what happened to daddy's legs, he'll go around telling his friends, the shark ate daddy's legs. This is why daddy doesn't like. He's 5.
He's 5. He's the younger one.
Yeah, he's the younger one.
Oh,
so
that's funny.
We're gonna let that slide and sail as long as we can. So
well, and then when he's a grown up, or like at his wedding, you can be like, hey, remember when you used to say this? It's just like one of those things you'll never forget. Like that was part of his childhood. Hey friends, big news from longtime sponsor Previnex. They've got a new Gut and Green superfood product, which is packed with organic greens, clinically studied gut health ingredients, and a clinically studied anti-aging ingredient that supports digestion, immunity, longevity, natural energy, and overall health. You take 1 scoop with 8 fluid ounces of cold water once a day. And when I tell you this is the best tasting superfood green product I've ever had, I'm not kidding. They have an apple flavor to it that makes it so much more delicious than the typical gut green products you've maybe had in the past. Not only is it great tasting, it's made without any junk. No gums, no sugar alcohols, or artificial anything. The thing about Previnex is they care so much about the quality of their ingredients, and more than anything at all, they care about bringing health to your life. So if you want to check out their Gut Green product, I highly recommend it. I take it every morning now before my coffee. So I know you've heard me talk about Previnex for years. They've got the creatine, the muscle health, the multivitamin, the joint health, all kinds of good products. So if you want to try this product and you've already used my other codes, as long as you have the Gut and Green Superfood in your cart, you can use the code Lindsay Superfoods. That's LINDSEY Superfoods for 15% off your order. You can add whatever else you want in the cart, but as long as the Gut and Green Superfoods is in there, use the code Lindsay Superfoods, and that will get you 15% off. All right, I'm super excited to hear what you think. I am fully on board with this, and I look forward to growing in health with you and with Previnex as the years go on. Yeah, so you do a lot of speaking. What kinds of things do you focus on when you give talks at various functions?
Yeah, so perseverance, that's one big thing, because I think as athletes, this is something that we go through. And I think that so many people, when they look at an elite athlete, they're just like, oh, I can't believe you could do it. And then you had the fact that you're disabled, and you're just like, wow, that's unbelievable. I wish I had that strength. And so for me, I'm just like, you have it. You just you just haven't unlocked it yet. And I was like, no, 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 you can't say that, this. And I'm like, okay, well, here's a prime example. The entire world was shut down for a better part of 6 months. And people had to come out of that unscathed. People had to pivot from what we deemed a normal lifestyle. You persevered over a global pandemic. So if we're able to do that, there's no way you can't tell me that we're able to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
So like everyone's persevered. And so that's a big part of some of my talks. Another big part is like my buy-in to the mental health aspect. Like when coaches was like, "Oh, we have sports psychologists." I'm like, I don't need that. What do I need that for? Yeah, if I want to be stronger, I lift weights. If I want to be faster, I push more. And it was like an aha moment when I had, you know, a sports psych session, and I was like, "Oh, this does have a physical impact on me as an individual, me as a leader." So it changes the way that I perceive things. So now the buy-in to mental health is not just for the aspect of trying to be an elite athlete, but it changes the way that I move in my day to day. So like that's huge for me. So like having people understand the journey and being able to persevere and understand that like mental health is just as important as physical health is something that I talk about regularly when we do speaking engagements.
Do you have a mentor or someone to look up to that had a similar disability as you were growing up, that you could see, like, you know, when you like, you can see yourself, what your life could be when you
Yeah.
see someone else that looks like you?
Honestly, I didn't. I had a litany of role models that I looked up to for sure. I mean, when you look at the younger years, like I was a big football fan. So the
Mm.
Washington Redskins, Commanders,
Mm-hmm.
whatever you want to call them at this point in time,
Yeah, yeah.
like Sean Taylor, he was a big one. LeVar Arrington, both defensive players that played the game. But if you want to talk about like, I remember vividly like listening to Ray Charles, blind musician, being able to like doesn't need his sight to know what good music is. So like if you're leaning towards that, Ray Charles was a huge one. And then like you transfer into like the coaches that I've had. Like I've had incredible coaches, and when people are like, "Well, what's the one thing your coach taught you that you can take with you?" And I'm like, "No, it's like I've been coached by committee, and the person that you see before you has taken a little bit from each of those coaches that makes the leader that's in front of you today. Am I perfect? Absolutely not. But I feel like the things that they've taught me, that they've given me, has molded me into the athlete that I am. And so, like, that changes the way that I am as a person, as a leader. And I think that that's like, they had a tremendous impact on how I am as a player, but also how I am as a man.
Have you coached?
I have not coached. I don't think I'm ready for that yet. I'm at the generational gap right now is different for me.
Mm.
We had a couple of young guys. I think our youngest guy in Paris was 21.
Okay.
So I'm still trying to understand the lingo, Riz, gas, all that stuff. Let me understand that first, and then we can worry about coaching afterwards.
Oh my gosh. Oh, my oldest is 12, so yeah.
You get it.
It's now what they say, "Oh, you're crashing out." That means you're like losing it. You're crashing
Oh,
out. Do you know that one?
that's another one I might have to add to my list of ongoing things.
Well, because your kids are young enough that they're not quite using the lingo yet.
Not there yet, no. But like you said earlier, though, there's like one or two things that my daughter will say. I'm like, what,
Hmm.
like, where is that coming from? Yeah,
Yeah. Well, and it all trickles down. Like, since my oldest is 12, my 6-year-old knows the lingo that he would have no idea about.
yeah,
Except
exactly.
he's got the
Or my
brothers. Yeah.
or my son just randomly going around there hitting the gritty, just like I'm just
Yeah.
like where do you get this from? I don't know. I don't argue.
Oh, it's good. Oh, wait, so are you still a Commanders fan? Do you live in Maryland?
Oh yeah, so we're in Virginia now,
Oh,
but oh
Virginia.
yeah, I'm a huge Commanders fan, and we are doing lovely. Jaden Daniels, thank you. He is our
Uh,
savior. So I am a huge Commanders fan.
okay, I'm gonna have to ask my boys what they think about that because I have all boys and
Okay.
they're just like football 24/7. They're obsessed with it. They're all getting like football jerseys for Christmas. That's their
Oh,
big gift.
that's good. I should
We don't
probably do that.
we don't have any Commanders jersey requests though. We've got
Jane Daniels, that's a good one. Terry McLaurin.
we've got Lamar Jackson.
Okay, that's fair.
Okay, that's my
Patrick Mahomes.
no Christian McCarthy.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I'm like I don't know a lot about football, but I hear a lot about it all the time, 24/7.
So is your family a big Blue fan then? I'm
Yeah,
assuming
we're
Michigan
both
fan.
big Michigan fans, but
Uh,
my husband and I both went to IU, so Indiana is like killing right now.
yeah.
That's exciting.
Okay.
But yeah, football all day, every day. I totally get it. I'll have to get the boys' input on what they think
The
about the
command.
Commanders this
Yeah,
year.
we're coming up. Slow. We're
Okay.
just a couple more pieces, and we'll be
Okay.
good.
Okay, that's good. What's next for you? What's going on? And we haven't even talked about the fact that you work for the Secret Service.
Yeah, the worst kept secret ever. Yeah, absolutely. No,
But like, are you
so
allowed to talk about that? Like, what can you
I
say about it?
I am in spurts. So yeah, I joined the service in the midst of COVID. Actually, that's when it kind of happened. I went to a disability employment career fair, and the Secret Service was there with a bunch of federal agencies. So like, I'm dropping my resume because I'm currently working, but the service is there. So I dropped my resume and I like spent a good 20, 30 minutes with them
Ah,
because I'm like, yeah. Uh, and then like 3 months later, I get an interview and it's like all sales from there. And what's crazy about this, I was like, I work for the service, and I was like, if anyone asks, I'm like, oh, I just do some work for the federal government. That's all I
mhm.
normally would say. And so gearing up to go to Tokyo, and like service is all excited. I'm like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm over in Tokyo, Japan, and all of a sudden my phone is just like blowing up. Ding, 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 ding. And I'm like, what is going on? I look, Secret Service posted, Trayvon Jenifer,
Ah,
Secret Service in Tokyo. I was like, oh, I didn't know I was allowed to do this. So now it's like a thing. But to be honest, like they have been like a huge support in all of this, like in my entire journey. Like they backed me. We had a going away kind of like party to prepare for to before we left for Paris, and like so many people from the service came down. They got me like a plaque. It was tremendous. And like all the thanks to them and the support. I
that's
came back
awesome.
to like 1,000 emails of support, not just like work stuff after coming back. And it just shows you how, like, we're one of the smallest agencies in the federal government, but we care for the people that we have within our agency. So for them to be able to support me from all over the world, because we have field offices all over the world, like it's just phenomenal.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
You get to do three things you
Yeah.
care a lot about. Add the family in there.
Oh yeah, that's number one. That's
Number
number
one,
one.
of
That's
course.
number one.
Of course. Oh. All right. Well, we always end the podcast with into podcast questions here.
Yeah.
So, what is one thing professionally or personally you would like to do that you have not done yet?
Oh, so we're checking off some bucket lists now that I'm getting older.
Mm.
So personally, it's like training for these sports. You're not allowed to do like downhill skiing. You're not allowed to do sled hockey for the purpose of you getting hurt. I just literally got the email this week that I have my sled hockey, or not sled hockey, my going down skiing the mountain the 31st of December. So pumped about that. We're going
That's awesome.
skiing. I've done sled hockey for like the last month. That's completely bonkers. So like anything that I wasn't allowed to do in the preparation of
Yeah.
basketball, I am just taking full advantage of that. I also want to learn to like weld. I'm a big person that likes to work with her hands. I want to do stuff with cars. Like you throw it at me. I'm like, I want to do it. At least try it one time, right? Try it one time. Professionally, I would say that what's crazy is that like I love my job, but working with my kids, like when they
Mhm.
come home with homework and stuff like that. I told Laura, I was like, as long as like when we retire and I'm done with my career, I want to actually be able to go back and be like a substitute teacher,
Mm.
maybe like be able to commit some time to being able to touch some of the next generations. Not to mention like, I don't know if you remember when you were like in school and you had a substitute teacher. That was like one of the best days
Oh yeah,
ever, right?
the
And
most fun.
yeah, right. So like, and I just think that it would be an awesome opportunity to go in and have a blast with the next generation of athletes, students. Like, I'm looking forward to that.
I feel like I've never heard someone talk about subbing that way, but it's so true. It's like you have the opportunity to be like the fun one and like still get stuff done, but like you can
Yeah,
really make an impact there.
have an impact on a kid, and it's not like tailored to one classroom. Or I
Yeah.
know that there's some substitutes that are like on call. So like you might be at school A this week and then school B next week. Like, sign me up for it. I'm here
Yeah.
for it.
Ah, that's so good. Do you have a good book recommendation?
Oh, okay, so I think the last book. No, this is fun because like I'm a big like debater, right? And
Okay.
so one of the books that like my wife and her like book club were reading was the Akatar series, right?
Okay.
And so me being me, like she's talking about it, and I'm like, I'm not into this. Let me watch the game, but I'm like over there like listening to what they're saying, and I'm like, oh, so blah blah blah. So the Agatar series, like I'm reading it now, so that way that we can have like this dialogue between the two of us and her book group. But
Mm.
like I love having those debates on who we like, who you don't like. It's just one of those things. Another big book was excuse me, Spy the Lie, which
Spy the
like
Lie.
CIA people trying to get into the mindset
Uh,
of when people are telling the truth,
ooh.
old polygraphers. So like that's another thing. So I don't know. It's just the way like I said, I'm wired weirdly. These are some of the things that we just love to do.
Oh, I need to read that for my kids because I'm like, I feel like I'm kind of gullible. Might might believe you when I shouldn't believe you.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what's crazy is that you think that's good, but then you start to get in your head, and then you start to
Yeah.
second guess whether or not like it's truth or a lie. So it's
Yeah.
like you're playing devil's advocate once you go down that road.
Totally. Are you guys watching anything good on TV or like Netflix or
Um,
whatever?
we are Lioness was it's on Paramount Plus right now. That's one of the big shows that we're watching. She's got the agency
Okay.
earmarked as well. So that's another one that we're looking at. If you can't tell, there's like a theme
Ah,
here with a
yes, yes.
lot of the things that are going on. But those are the two big ones that we're trying to like stay up to date on.
Okay, you get to go to one concert tomorrow. Who are you going to see?
Ooh, put me on the spot.
Or
Dead
you
or
could
alive?
say, I say, or yes, and you could also say best concert you've ever been to. Whatever you want
So
to, however you want to
what's
answer it.
crazy is I've never been to a concert.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
Like
surprised.
I went to my first NBA game like a year ago. I've been to my first like Commanders game like 3 weeks ago. So like
Okay.
I'm finally like trying like getting out and about with all these different events because of the training schedule.
Oh, yeah, I'm
Um,
sure.
Michael Jackson, hands
Oh,
down, is
yeah.
my favorite, and I heard that he was one of the best performers. So like seeing one of his concerts was definitely up there. I'm a big '90s R&B fan.
Mm.
Like that's something that you probably don't know about me. So like anything R&B related, Whitney Houston, Boys and Men, like you if you put me on one of those, you're good. You put the podcast on, I can drive for hours with that kind of music.
Oh, I love Whitney Houston, man.
Yeah,
I was
those
deep
vocals, you
diving her the
can't.
other day. Oh, there's nobody that compares.
Yeah, and then you add that into one of the. I don't know. I'm a fan of The Bodyguard. Some people think that it's overrated, but The Bodyguard was one of the best movies.
Yeah.
You add her talent as an artist along
Uh-huh.
with the acting. I
So
loved it.
good. It's so good. I feel like I need to go watch that again.
Yeah. It's a good movie.
What is your last message to leave with our audience today?
I think the last message I would leave is just be the best version of yourself. I think so many different times we can get caught up in social media. We can get caught up in this idea of being like, we have to be the perfect blank. And 9 times out of 10, it's never for you. So I think that if you could be the best version of yourself because you're the one that identifies what that is, go all for it. And if no one likes it, who cares? Because at the end of the day, it's about you. And I think so many times we're so consumed. I saw this short clip animation and it was a cartoon. This person wakes up and it's like a black and white cartoon. And as they're going throughout their day, like they're touching people that might be shaded in, but then they start to absorb all of that shaded inness. And all that shaded inness is like negativity. And by the end of the day, this person's completely shaded in when they were empty when they started their day. And then you don't realize that, okay, you take that energy, you take it home. And they had a dog. And as soon as you touched the dog, it was transferring all the energy to the dog. So you don't realize that throughout your day, you're going to be absorbing a lot and you're going to be giving a lot. But when you start to focus on you and making sure that you're healthy physically, mentally, spiritually, it allows you to be able to have conversations that might be able to lift those other individuals up, but it has to start with you.
It's so good. It's so true. The way that we can be affected by like one little interaction and how it can just totally derail or uplift the rest of our day is just crazy.
Yeah, and it's actually so crazy how small something could be and how big of an impact it can have on it. So like, I remember listening to an interview with Denzel Washington, and he goes off and he says, it's so crazy that you could be having the best day, driving, listening to your favorite song, going to your favorite park on a beautiful day, and then someone cut you off. And immediately in that split second, you're like, learn to drive, you blah, 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 blah. And it takes you out of that beautiful day. And now, how long is it going to take you to go back to that happy place? So I think that's the biggest thing. Like understanding, like, we're going to hit obstacles in this road, but like, if you know who you are and you're okay with who you are inside, you're in for a good day.
Trevon Jenifer, thank you so much.
No, thank you so much. I appreciate you having me.
Thanks so much, everybody, for joining us today. Thank you, Trevon, for sharing your story. You all can find him, Trey Jenifer. That's Jennifer with one N on Instagram. You can find me. I'm Lindsay Hine 626. And if you want to learn more about this show and all the shows in our network, just go to sandyboyproductions.com. You can also learn more about what I'm up to at lindsayhine.com, where I have some half marathon and marathon training plans for sale. One of our recent reviews on the training plan, I got a DM from Amanda. She says, I just wanted to thank you for your amazing marathon training plan. This was the first time I have purchased a training plan, and I'm so glad I did. I raced Indy and got a 15-minute PR. I've been working for a while to hit my goal of sub 4 and crush that with a 3:49. Obviously, hard work pays off, but also having an amazing guide and plan was key for me this time. I tell everyone about it. Thank you. Oh, I love that. Here's another one. Hi, Lindsay. I wanted to let you know, since we chatted a couple times about my friend and I using your intermediate marathon training plan, that almost after a decade away from the marathon and no prior experience with speed work, we both snagged massive PRs, 25 and 43 minutes, and qualified for Boston. Most importantly, your plan pushed and guided us to test our limits and now has us wanting more. I think it took steps after the finish line for us to know we're not done, and credit is owed to your plan. We'll definitely do it again, and if you ever put together a base building plan, it would be put to good use. Thanks again. That is the best feeling to hear. I love hearing when people use one of these training plans and have success in their race. And that first review I read is right. Like, you put in the work. You're following the plan that is well designed, but you are the one showing up for yourself. So if you want to check those out, they're at lindsayhine.com. All right, friends, thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time on I'll Have Another with Lindsay Hine podcast.